guys, this is an Adams-Rite door latch. Normally this is inserted into the door itself and you wouldn't be able to see any of this stuff. The only part you'd be able to see, of course, is the mortise lock hanging out in the front. This is actually a pretty cool system, very popular both in residential and probably even more popular in commercial storefronts. Let's take a look at how it works. You'll notice we have actually a latch located here, and then there's a locking bar on the bottom. So if we take the key and we slide it in there, you'll notice they're kind of independent. We actually have to overcome an internal locking mechanism, and then the latch itself will start to retract, and then once it gets a certain point, it'll drag that locking bar with it. So pretty cool system. So let's see how we beat it. If you take a look at the top of this latch, let me just tilt the camera over, you notice there's a flat spot and then it's rounded, but let's say we wanted to shim it. And if we were able to retract it just a little bit till it gets rounded, we could insert a shim and we could retract that latch. And that's exactly what this locking bar is trying to prevent. So knowing that, we have to retract the locking bar first. We might decide, well, what we're going to do, we're going to get our pocket knife, or maybe a couple of pocket knives, and we're going to slide them between the door frame and the door itself, and we're just going to kind of work it back, and eventually we're going to manage to completely, let me see if I can do this without dropping it, we're going to retract that locking bar. Now all we've got to do is get a shim or credit card or something and maybe shim that latch, right? Yeah, not so much. They knew we would try that, and they've got an internal lock that will prevent us from doing exactly that. Even if we disable the locking bar itself, we're not going to be able to retract that latch. So let me go and turn this around and let's take a look at how this mechanism works, and then I'll show you how to defeat it. Alright guys, here's the opposite side. Normally all this is obscured by the door, but I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at how it's supposed to work. Alright, first of all, let's see why it didn't work. Okay, we had taken our knife and we had pushed that locking bar, and then we reached around, I'll just use my finger there to push it, and you'll notice we were not able to get that to retract. And if you look closely, I might even be able to zoom in a little bit here, and you can see this. There is a little latch right here, so when we push it, he's getting caught up on the frame, and that prevents us from pushing that latch all the way in. It just blocks him. So let's take a look at how it's supposed to work. Okay, again, the key is already in the other side. This is the back of the lock, and this is the tail piece. So when we turn it, you'll notice he grabs that little tab right there, and when we turn it, it unlocks that little locking mechanism, which then allows us to completely turn both the latch itself. Again, I'll zoom out, hopefully. Retracts both the latch and that locking bar. Pretty cool system. So how are we going to beat it? Well, let me take that key out of there. What we've got to do is find some way to activate this little latch exactly the way the key did. We've got to push him down to unblock the latch, and then we've got to retract both of these exactly the way the key did it. Okay, there's a way to do that, and let me turn it around and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Alright guys, the tool we're going to use is called the Adams-Rite Bypass Driver. It's just, this one is from Sparrows. It was $9.50 Canadian. That's like $7.30 US. It's kind of a nice solid handle, and it's got some really stiff wire in it, and it's kind of bent to some pretty specific angles there. Pretty neat, but I tell you, if you try to take this, and I'll zoom in a little bit and show you what I'm talking about. If you try to take this and just slide it straight away into the keyway, that is actually taller than the keyway. So I found the best way to get these in there is to turn it like this and then use the flat part of that flag to push all the pins up out of your way. Just push them all the way into the Bible, just like the key does, and then kind of jiggle it and work it all the way into the lock. Any other way, you're going to be struggling with it. I find that that works best. So let me turn this around and show you what we're looking like on the other side. Alright, we slid him all the way through the keyway. Now what you'll notice is that as we spin this around, it'll grab on that little tab, but it doesn't hold him very well. You can start partially turn it, and then it usually will slip off. And that's by design. And if we make that little tab any longer, it won't fit through the keyway. So there's a technique to it. And I hate to keep turning this back and forth, but let me show you what that technique is. Once you place it inside of there, and you feel that you're hitting on that spring-loaded tab, take the handle of your pick and go ahead and bend that wire and turn them all the way to the top, because when you do that, it's going to force that wire to the bottom of the keyway. Let me zoom in a little so you can see it, And once we twist him all the way to the bottom of the keyway, then we completely control that unlock mechanism. We unlock it, as you see right here, and then we start to retract it. Now, we're working against two very, very powerful springs. There's a spring, as I said, on the main latch, and it's located right there. And there's a spring on the locking bar, and it's located a little bit difficult to see down below there, but again, a pretty powerful spring located right in here. So if we force it, we're probably going to slip off. So what we'll do is we kind of get on there and bounce a little bit, and then we get it retracted almost all the way. And that's what you see here. It's going to be sticking out between an eighth and a quarter of an inch. If the tolerance between the door frame and the door are very, very tight, we're probably not going to get an open at this point. We have, however, deactivated the locking bar. We've deactivated the lock here. So now at that point it's possible to shim it because we're on this rounded edge and we can easily do that. So again, I'm working at a weird angle here. I'm going to take him, well, let me go ahead and turn him around and I'll probably show you a better angle from the side. Alright guys, the first one I'm going to show you is called Sparrow's Quick Shims. They come in this pack, they're pretty cheap, they're $19.95 Canadian, that's like $15, $15.50. There's 6 of these shims, 3 thick ones, and that's what I'm going to be using. It's even stiffer than a credit card, and then there's some that are slightly thinner. I don't like the thin ones, I find myself using those thick ones. So let me go ahead and get this retracted a little bit, and I'll show you how we're going to use these shims from the outside of the door, which is where I'm attacking from right now. Okay, if you're trying to get through an older Adams-Rite with worn springs, you probably already got into it. But if you're stuck with a newer lock like this one with very strong springs, or you have a very tight doorway, you haven't managed to retract it quite enough. And I'm leaving this stuck out. This is kind of exaggerated, but I'm going to leave it out about a quarter an inch. The advantage of partially beating this with the bypass tool is that now we've deactivated the internal locking mechanism. So now the latch can move, and even better, when we move the latch, it's going to take that locking bar with it. The other part of this is if you look closely at the latch, it's rounded, all rounded on the top. And if we round it, if it's rounded, that means we can get our shim to go down. Now I'm going to try to do this. Imagine this is in the door frame, and I'm going to take my shim, I'm going to slide it between the doorway, and I'm going to ride along the curvature there, and I'm just going to force it down, get down there, and now I've got it pushed in, and now we've got an open. And then when we pull our shim out, of course, the latch completely pops back out. But it doesn't matter, because now we got the door open. That is how you defeat the latch. Now, there's one other part about this, and that is, pull everything out of there, a lot of these have steel plates located right here. And if you have a steel plate located there, that means you can't slide that shim in there. There's a way around that too, also. And that would be another tool. This is a Sauber, they call it the Upvc latch tool. It's got a little angle, and now you see we can approach it from a slightly different angle. Let me go ahead and get that set up, get everything put back together, and I'll show you how to use one of these. Alright, got the same scenario. We've got a partially set latch. We still haven't gotten a door open, but again, just like before, everything's deactivated internally because of our bypass tool. So we hold our tension to sticking out about a quarter inch, and then we take our Sauber tool. Now remember, there's a steel plate located in the front blocking direct access. So instead, we're going to attack from the top. And we're going to take the Sauber tool and we're going to slide it down just like this. And then once it's done, we're completely in, bypass the entire locking mechanism. These Sauber tools, they are available. I got this from, I think, Lockpick Canada. $39 Canadian. I think that works out to about $30 US. Pretty useful tool, especially if there are steel plates in front of the locking mechanisms. So anyway, fellas, there you go, the Adams-Rite and the bypass tool, and a couple different ways to shim it to get in if you have a very tight door or very powerful springs. Thanks for your time. Stay safe. Stay legal. Alright guys, I forgot the most important part. Alright, if you want to win a brand new bypass driver from Sparrows and a brand new Sparrows quick shim kit, go to the website, hit the fan appreciation button. That would be the big one where all the buttons are located, and you got a good chance of winning. Thanks guys.